Thank you for tuning in to this mini tutorial. This is Evelyn from The Modern Needle, and I was just finishing up this beautiful test knit. It is a cowl. It is called Maude, and I was presented with some unique challenges or points of view. So I thought, as I was knitting along, I'm going to make a little mini tutorial. So if you would like to see how this is done effortlessly, give me 1 second and stay tuned, and I will show you how to do it. So when I decided that I wanted to knit this cowl, I could see that it had an icord on the top and it had an icord on the bottom. So I already knew before I even looked at the pattern on how it was knitted that this icord is either knitted on, so you start off with an icord cast on, which is terribly fiddly. So I knew I wasn't going to do that. And I knew that if I don't do it that way, I'll have to pick up the stitches to knit the icord on the other side. So my preferred provisional cast on, where I know I'm going to pick up stitches and go in the other direction, and I don't want to do it provisional and have a cord running across it, which often gets in my way, or I might lose stitches because I take my knitting everywhere. I knew I wanted to have a closed off cast on that's not gonna where I'm not gonna lose anything. There is no cord in my way when I'm knitting it. I'm always maximum comfort so that I can knit fast without being in pain and without anything obstructing my knits. So I knew I was going to do a backwards loop cast on no matter what the cast on said. And the way that I do it is I often cast on with a smaller needle so that my stitch, because I'll knit in it when I knit my first row, and then I have to knit in it again and stretch it when I knit in the other direction when I pick it up later. So I do like to have a smaller needle because I want to have a smaller circumference hole. So here I'm going to cast on with the needle number 4, and then when I show you this thing here, I think it's a 6.5. What do I have here? What does it say? 6.5. Okay. I hang on to a little tail in my right hand, and the yarn is attached to my left. I knit from right to left. I am a continental knitter, and I'm a Western knitter, so I hang on to the yarn this way. If I were to do a long tail cast on, I always cast on over 2 needles to make a better loop, and I wrap the yarn 10 or 20 times around my needle. Whether it's 1, I wrap it over 1. If it's 2, I wrap it over 2 to see how much do I need for the cast on, and then multiply it by however many stitches. But in this case here, because my thread is to the left and I'm using it as I go along, I don't need it. So I hang on to my yarn this way. I scoop with my thumb and make a loop. I create a slingshot style, run my needle up, and make my first loop. You can use a slip knot on the right to anchor it. I've done this a million times. I don't need the slip knot anymore to help me out. But before I used to do a slip knot, then I do my backwards loops, and then after I just throw the slip knot off the needle, and it doesn't count for anything. It just helps me anchor. Because right now, this is what I'm looking like. So it's not anchored with anything, but I'm using my fingers as tools in crochet and knitting and sewing, so it hangs on to my stuff. So here I just grab the yarn, scoop it, and this is stitch 2. I place my fingers in here so that I don't make it too tight, otherwise it's kind of hard to get into them, and you'll see in a minute. I keep my thumb and I move my finger. I scoop the yarn This is number 3. Walk my thumb, number 4. Walk my finger, number 5. See, my thumb is always in the pickup position. You pick up speed real fast. So let's say you need 500 of these, and every time you count, you're actually getting a different number, and you're totally confused, and you think, oh my God, like, how many do I have here? Don't worry about it. Just give it a few extra stitches, and once you are ready to knit it, to knit the first round, and as you can see, I'll pick up my 6.5. The first few stitches are actually the fiddliest. So here is stitch number 1. I want to knit 8 stitches to show this to you. Number 2, 3. Make sure I catch all of the plies. 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. And these are too many. I can just pull out the needle and let them hang there. That's it. All I did was elongate the tail. I may have not wanted that long of a tail, but that's fine. Oops. Of course, I don't want to knit with a tail. So technically, to be honest with you, and I do that sometimes because I don't want to waste yarn. If I'm on double pointed needles, or if I'm on a circular needle, and let's say I have this much of a tail, I will check if I have enough to get across. So to get across is three times the length, and I have at least 3 times the length and a bit of a tail. I can knit across this way here with a tail. Okay, so let's actually do it, and I show you exactly what I mean. And then slide it. I do want to use the tail on purpose this time. Actually, I knitted the first round already, right? So this is a purl. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I slipped my last one. I will slide this back and leave it, and I can just use the I can use my tail, and this way here I did not waste that much. I extended my knitting by 1 row, and it is right here. So let me purl this across, and I did not waste this huge tail on anything. So there we go. I have now knitted 2. I will knit 1 more to show this to you. Okay, I won't knit the last one here. So now I can, this is row number 3. I can turn my work, and I'm ready to pick up these stitches here. And when you look at the stitches, it's kind of nice when it's still attached to the needle. So let me see if I can bring it closer. Okay, focus. There we go. You can see that this is the stitch. The top of the stitch comes out of this. So if you follow this along down here, you can see, oh, that was a attached cord. This is the stitch. This is actually the stitch here. And this cord here is the stitch from one into the next one. Then it curls into here. So when I want to pick up my stitches, if you're somewhere where it is not visible or whatever, let's say if it's on this cowl here, it won't matter if I just pick up this stitch here or if I pick up this stitch here. It makes almost no difference. However, you do have to be aware that when you have your stitch count, the stitches in between, unless you're in the round where it connects back on this side here, you're always going to be a half a stitch short. However, if I pick them up stitch for stitch, I would get this guy and the back stitch. So this would be one. This is two. This is three. And I just pick them up like this. You can, of course, because the yarn is rather big. However, I can do it this way. I can find my stitch here. The next one is this and this. Okay. If I cross it, I will twist the stitch. If I knit it through the back loop, it'll be straight on. Anytime you pick up stitches from somewhere, they could be mounted backwards. It just is what it is. So I'll grab my next stitch, which is right here, and the stitch in the back of it. And again, I knit it. Have to get in properly. And again, the first row maybe, or the picking up might be a little bit fiddly. Here you can see that I actually split this stitch here. Not a problem. I'll go back out. I didn't get all of the yarn, so I will go get all of the yarn. I'll go right under it. There we go. And make sure that I have all of it. Yeah, there we go. That's my next stitch, and go under it, grab this guy with a stitch behind it, and you can see actually how seamless this is. And if we go to the top and the bottom and we'll have a look at the stitches, you will see how beautiful this way of picking up your stitches is. And I'm not really sure that there is a lot of videos about it, but or if many people use this technique, I have no idea. I'm pretty sure I did not come up with it. I may have, because I'm always thinking about stuff, but it doesn't matter. So here I'm actually in my last stitch, and it is a little bit tight because it is the last stitch, so I can just pull on that a little bit to make it easier for me to get in here. Okay, here we are. Let's see, I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 2, 4, 6, 8. And now we can have a look at it, and you can see this stitch here. I'll pull it a little bit. I almost have to knit a little bit that you can see it, but I kind of don't want to, so that you can really see it. So this stitch, The stitch is right in the middle of this. This is the stitch. And you can see we have a stitch at the top and we have the stitch at the bottom. It is coming out of the same stitch. If we would have picked just this one loop, it would sit it in the stitches in between, which, depending on what it is, it makes no difference. It is easier to pick up because you're not picking up the two. And here you have a tiny, once this is knitted, you will have your seam is this one little row. Very often it kind of disappears into the purl ridges, but they'll be closer together so that you can see it a little bit, but it's not intrusive by any means. It will just lay like this and you can knit going up into this direction. Quite beautiful. So this is, again, I picked it up with a smaller needle and now I'll knit it with my gauge needle. And I knit it with a smaller needle because I do want to have a smaller stitch on this, because I feel that we're stretching the stitches a little bit going along. If you forget it, depending on where it is that you're doing this, it may or may not be a big deal to you. So here you can see how it's knitted and really how seamless this is. Quite nice. So this is what I do when I know I'm going to knit in two directions at one point. So in order to keep it easy, I'll use, even if it says a provisional cast on, I often don't do that because then I'll have a cord hanging there and it's a bit of a, it's not as nice to knit, put it that way. So going back to the top icord, the instructions read, once I was at the end of the row, it said, I think, knit, cast on 4 stitches, knit on the icord, and once you get to the other side or something like that, you'll graft it together. But it really didn't say anything. So my stitches were all sitting on my needle here. Actually, I'll show you. So they were all sitting here, but then of course, actually I'll transfer these stitches on to make my point. This was another sample that I had just knit for a minute to use, but then I didn't use it. Okay, so let's say I was at the top of the cowl, I'm knitting in the round, so imagine a cord going across the back there. And this was the end of the row, and this is starting a new row. So it had said cast on the 4 stitches using the backwards loop. I think it even said and knit your icord. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And now I had the 4 stitches for my icord on here. However, you pull them, I would have had to transfer them to this side and it would have created a bit of a jog. So I didn't really want that. Plus, I like attaching the icord on the back of my work because when I attach it, if this is the front, the row that attaches the icord, and I'll bring it closer again. Sorry for a minute. When I attach this icord here, you can see it looks a little bit flat. And even though you can't see it because I only used one loop, where it is attached, that hidden seam in there is actually disguised inside the I-cord. And once this here is blocked, it'll be almost completely gone. It is, I feel, already completely gone. But it lacks the dimension of the I-cord. So I like attaching I-cords from the back. Number one, just in case this here pokes out, it's not a big deal because you don't see it. And the I-cord has the dimension on this side, not so much on this side. So what I ended up doing is, here are my I-cord stitches, and then I would have had the rest of the circumference starting again on this needle here, which is attached by a cord, etc. So I just turned my work, which was perfect because I wanted to do it from the back anyways, and then I just knitted it. So on this cord here where it was attached, I turned my work around and sorry, actually this is a backwards loop. I would have knitted these 1, 2, 3. This is the 4th new stitch, and these are the stitches that came from the cowl on this side here. I would have just knitted that together. Through the back loop. If I knit something together through the back loop, it's like a decrease, a left leaning decrease, and you can see it right here. This will force the I-cord to lay this way. So I would have had to transfer these stitches back onto here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Because the I-cord only ever gets knitted to one side. The yarn gets carried in the back, and we will knit this again. 1, rock it a bit, 2, 3. This is the 4th stitch of the I-cord, and this is part of the cowl in the back. I will knit these two together, rock my needle a bit, and as you can see, again, it turns it sideways. It already forces this sideways. I'll pick up 1 stitch from the back here, and I always like to have lots of double points because this way I can just leave this here and I'm only knitting the I-cord itself. I should only ever have like 5 stitches on here. 1, 2, 3, and knit the 2 together through the back loop, rock my needle, pick up 1 extra stitch from the cowl body, and so I'll move that one more in the middle, and knit again. 1, 2, 3, and this can just hang out. It's a wooden needle. It's not going anywhere. And knit these 2 stitches together, rock my needle to tighten it up a little bit, pick up 1 extra stitch from the body of the cowl, let it hang here, and do it again. And you can see already that the I-cord is forming because as I'm pulling this yarn from the back to the front, and I often rock my needle. It kind of, you can see how it pulls it together here. So 1, 2, 3. This is the end of my I-cord. This is the last stitch, and I will knit that together with a cowl, and I knit it through the back loop, rock my needle, pick up 1 stitch, slide it back. Actually, yeah, I will knit. I just have 2 rows left, so I show you. 1, 2, 3 through the back. Okay, there's only 2 stitches left here, so I'll actually transfer both of those onto my DPN that I'm knitting with, and you can see how the I-cord pulls it into the back this way. And this is how the I-cord that was attached is being formed. So I'm actually, okay, knitting them again together. And I have my last stitch here. I slide it to the other side. Oh, doing it with the 2 different needles kind of shows you a little bit better how this works. So this is my last one. Okay, so now we attached the whole, all of the stitches here have been knitted into an I-cord, and we're going sideways because we're doing the left leaning decrease down here, and this is what's forcing the rest of the stitches, because they're not attached, it forces them into this direction here. So this is the inside of the cowl. You can see there is not much dimension going on. However, because the cord curls, and when you look at the cord, I-cord, there's a hole here. You can see that. This stitch here belongs to the outside stitch, but there's a hole in here. It's a cord, and I can actually push my needle through here, and this is where you pull the cord, this is where you pull the cord from the back side to the front that connects it together. It would be this guy here that pulls it when you do the front stitches. That's this guy here, and it's pretty neat. So your I-cord is formed here, and it rolls to the front quite nice. And here is the dimension of your cord. You don't really get it from this side, but you sure get it where it rolls to, if that makes any sense at all. So this is how I attach the I-cord onto the cowl, where I had all of these stitches sitting there. And then I would knit 1 row, no, I didn't knit a row without the I-cord, and then I just Kitchener stitched it together, the top and the bottom. However, if this is a bit complicated, what you can do is knit 1 row of this I-cord here, cut it off, pull the yarn through these stitches, pull it tight, and because there's a tube in here and you do have a bit of a circumference, you can just take the end of this tube and shove it into this tube, pull the needle out over here and pull on the tube so that it really disappears. You can knit a couple of rows that it can disappear into here. You can either do the 2 together, knit it to the end, do 2 together, knit it to the end, so that the tube that you're shoving into here is getting a bit smaller in circumference as you pull it along into here. That's not a problem. And then clean up your threads and nobody is the wiser. So now that I did this bit here, I turned my cowl around, because again, I cast on my stitches here, and I'm using this color. Just want to make sure that I'm on the right end. That's coming out of, yeah, out of my little body here. So I have to cast on again. Let me bring it back so that you can see better. I hang on to it like this, and it doesn't matter how you hold this. My thumb goes under it, and my needle slides up 1, 2, that anchored that first one, 3, 4. I will knit my first row, 1, 2, where am I? 2, 3, 4. Okay, here's my tail. This here is my front. So I have to keep it to the front because I'll have to slide it again to this side here. This is how I am knitting. My knitting is facing me this way, but I need to turn it around. And now we actually have two choices here. I'm knitting on the inside so that my tube curls around to the front. And I have to say this is a Cascade 220, and I just love the Cascade 220. So when I look at it this way, I can see, I'll bring this closer. There we go. I can see where my stitches are, and it doesn't matter where I start the tube. So technically, I can pick up all of these and do this. And if I have a small, if I have like lots of small stitch circumferences or whatever, I can just do this, and then I attach my tube. The thread is attached here, so I know I have to slide this back to the front, but I like knitting from the DPNs because I just slide them. But even if you have a corded, you take the shortest cord that you have so that you can keep sliding it this way. So let's do it this way, or I'll show you 2 different ways. So here my yarn is at the end of the cord. I'm sliding, it would be this way here. I'm sliding it to the end. So let's do it this way. I'm knitting these 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And actually I have to undo this last stitch, unknit it, because I wasn't supposed to knit this 4th stitch. I will knit these 2 together through the back loop. Now I have to transfer the stitches back onto here. And knit my tube again. 1, 2, 3. Sorry, 3. I'm looking under the camera here, and because I'm knitting them together through the back loop, it pushes that stitch to the left. If I were to knit them together this way, it is pushing them to the right, but it would go against it would twist this. So I don't really want to do that. So you knit them together through the back loop, and through the back loop is always an easier stitch. Move everything back over to here. And this is when the stitches are attached or when you pick them up. Now I show you the way that I like doing it to save time. So I'll give you one more of this through the back loop. Rock it a little bit to make sure it's all on there. And then of course, once you're done with these stitches, you pull the cord again to, oh, sorry, I didn't move them yet. Sorry about the noise. And you just pick up more stitches right here. It's really, really easy, folks. It's very easy. There you go, and you just keep on knitting. However, for myself, I had seen that I had split that yarn. Actually, I'll take that back out. Okay. For myself, if you don't have any DPNs, attach the shortest cord that you have. And maybe I'll start it off right like this. Okay. Bring it back this way. Start it off on the shortest cord that you have. I'll show you the two different ways. I hang on to this. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll slide it this way because I was just thinking not everybody has DPNs anymore. I have a gazillion DPNs because I love DPNs, but they do come in handy as tools a lot of the time because they're shorter. It's kind of easy. So here we go. This is the first round really, and I do like knitting the first round so I can see when I graft it together what am I grafting it to, or what am I knitting it to, or even if you want to shove the tube inside one another, you have a place to start. This is the only time that this fourth inside stitch here gets knitted by itself. Pull them. Now I'm going to start anywhere, somewhere here. Actually, yeah. One, 2, 3. And because this here is connected, I'll just transfer this last stitch here onto the needle. And I take any one of these top loops. I can put my needle into them, but I find I don't even have to do that. I'll get a few going and I'll show it to you. So I'm knitting this here in the back loop. I got 1, 2, 3, and I knitted this in the back loop. And if I want to, I can already pick up this next stitch here, just like this, and I put it on the needle and I pull the cord back. My yarn again is on this side here, and I knit my 1, 2, 3. My fourth stitch gets knit together. Actually, I will bring this a bit closer so that you can see it is attached. I rock my needle. I will get my next stitch, which is right here. You can see them sitting right They're just so easy to pick up. I can even bring this closer if that works. Here is my stitch, and I just put my finger under it to roll it up. And here's my next stitch, next stitch, next stitch, next stitch. They're really easy to see. So I have 4 on the needle. I will pick up this 5th one, and these 2 always get knitted together. So I have my 3 and the 2 that get knitted together. So I have everything that gets knitted together on here. Have to let it go, pull my I-cord, rearrange my hands, and bring it back over here. 1, 2, 3, and knit this together through the back loop, rock it a bit, and put up the next stitch onto the cowl. There we go. And I have to let it go every single time I do this because I need to rearrange the cords. So enter a DPN. This is a sock DPN. It is 6 inches. I have 5 inches for mittens, and I have 8 inches. Just grab whatever one you have. So here are my 4 stitches. I knit 1. Sometimes I rock this a little bit behind it. 2, 3, and I knit these together. 4, and I'll roll it up to get my next stitch. Here's stitch number 5. I don't need to let go anything. Well, I had to drop that cord. Now it's transitioned onto my stitches here, onto the DPNs. And I just need to slide it. I don't let my work go. I'll pull that a bit behind to make a nice tight tube. And you can see the tube is already forming. It's already looking like a tube. 3, I need to knit these together. This is 4. And here's number 5. My finger, everything is still attached. There we go. 1, 2, 3. Knit these 2 together. Rock it a bit and get the next stitch. I will show you a few stitches more so that you can see it in slow form. Here is my stitch. I will pick that up, and my finger just rolls these up so that I can really see where is that top stitch, and you can see it like really well. This is the next one, next one, next one. They're really easy to see. But my point is, with the DPNs, I don't drop any of this. I don't need to do any rearranging. I'll show a couple more, and then I'll show you how that translates into speed when you actually work. And this knitting together into the back loop is a very flat attachment. As you can see here, it's really flat. And it's easy because I'm not crossing my fingers to get into the front. So I'll show you one more, and then I will give it a little bit of distance. There we go. Into the back. And I don't need to take all of this extra time to string them all up. And because there is no cord where all of these stitches sit on, it gets very easy. So now let me give you a little bit of distance here, and I'll knit the way that I would normally knit this in my regular speed. Probably still not quite because I have that camera in the middle there. So you can see that I never need to let my work go, and because I'll bring it back up. As you can see, my tension gets better as I work it out. This blue here will completely disappear into the cord. Even if you're not very good at it just yet, or don't mean just yet or whatever, but once this here is blocked, it will disappear. Plus, this bit is on the inside here. So when I turn this around to the outside, it is clean, it has dimension, and it just looks beautiful. Once I block this, I didn't block this yet, but it will look like this here in the top. So it'll not be a big deal. So I will knit this here to the end, and I'll meet you on the other side to show you how to put this together. So I have made it all the way around. As you can see, the tube is attached everywhere. I have broken the yarn, and I was actually knitting from here. These are my starting stitches. This is the start of my tube. So I'm going to graft them together, and I have to stay, well, actually, no, it doesn't matter. I'll go into my setup stitch here, which is, I'm coming from the inside out. And I can see that, like, if you get confused, I want to connect these stitches to these stitches and make it look the same. So I will have to come from the inside here and go around the inside, go around the two legs of the stitch here and go back into the front. Let me see, I'll do it this way. Go back into the front this way, and I can drop that. So these two stitches here are combined. I go into the next one from the inside. This is my knit side, so I will never go into the stitch from the front, as it is all of the stitches happen on the inside of this tube here. I'll go into the next two and pick them up. Let me see. This way. I'll come back in the inside here. Sorry. It's not right. I have to come from the outside. Catch the inside of this stitch here. Okay, this is wood and this is bamboo. I'm going to switch it to a bamboo needle. They are a bit grippier than the okay. Back into here and come on the back of this guy here and drop it. Go under these two legs here, come in the top of the stitch and from the back of this stitch. Grab these last, go through the two legs and go back into the front of the stitch. And I can clean up this. Okay. I'll come up this way here, and looking at my stitches, I'll check if I need to do anything else, if I want to go back over them, or if I think I didn't catch them properly, and then I will actually attach them from the front. So I'll go into this stitch here, go back up, and grab these two legs. Come back out in between here. Grab these two. No, I did these two. All good. No, I'll do these two. I'll go back into this last stitch here. And I'll also grab this just to pull it up and clean this up. I have a little bit left. There we go. This is my connection of the tube. Once this is blocked, I can completely hide this. There we go. Here you can still see the bump, and once everything is finished, you may still see a little bit of a bump, but once this is blocked out and rolled under, it won't matter. The other bit that you could have done is knit across your I-cord, knit the first two together, knit to the end of the cord, pull it back to the front, knit two together, go to the end of the cord until you have one stitch left. You pull the loop through that one stitch, push the one tube inside the other, clean up your threads, and you will see the beginning of the tube for the first little bit. Once this is stretched out a few times and you blocked it, you will actually have to go through it and look at the cord and think, where is it? I know it's there because I put it there, but where exactly is it? So if you can't really see it, other people are not going to see it. And now the other thing is that this will be like crunched up around your neck. This is a cowl that is meant for your neck, and it is, let's see, this is a 6-inch needle. So as you can see, this is probably 9 inches, 6 inches and maybe 3 more over here. So I'm thinking that this is 9 inches. You're not a giraffe, so your neck is not going to be as wide. It's going to curl in this way a little bit, and it'll curl in this way a little bit, and you will not be able to see any of this, period. So don't worry about it. So this is how I attach anything to my I-cords or knit into 2 directions. The cowl is called Maude. It will be released at the end of September. I'll put the link to it. I'll put the link to my account because it hasn't been released yet. And then from my Ravelry account, you can go ahead and find it. However, I do hope that you enjoyed this little mini tutorial, even though I think it'll be close to an hour by the time it's done. Happy knitting. I hope I made your life a little bit easier, and I'll see you next time.